Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, Smackdown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome to your Winged Oosie podcast for October 29th, 2022. Hope you guys are having an excellent Saturday, an excellent weekend. I hope you are feeling Oosie AF, if you know what I mean. What a segment last night on SmackDown. Segment of the year in my mind. It just overwhelmed me with joy to watch what Sami Zayn and the Bloodline did last night. That was so much fun on SmackDown. So we are here to talk about that primarily, along with the big portion of this podcast is going to be more of the CM Punk and Elite drama in AEW, with some more reports coming out about CM Punk's dog, Chris Jericho calling CM Punk a cancer and a detriment to the locker room, and all sorts of juicy tidbits regarding that, and we might be inching closer and closer to a resolution in that internal investigation ongoing in AEW, so we will be talking about that. We'll discuss last night's Smackdown and Rampage a little bit. We have some news on Sasha Banks. We have some potential changes to the WWE Money in the Bank matches, a couple of new AEW signees. Some congratulations to offer to Sheamus, who got married the other day, and we're going to take a look ahead to this week's Dynamite, which is pretty stacked. This week's Smackdown, or next week's Smackdown, I should say as well, because that was taped last night. We'll look ahead to this Monday's Raw, and we will preview all of Crown Jewel, the entire card. 7 matches we have so far now officially announced for that pay-per-view coming up 1 week from today. So we'll be here, instead of the Winged Eagle, it'll basically still be like a Winged Eagle, but it's mostly going to be Crown Jewel review, which will be coming at you 1 week from today. Next Saturday, I have to get up at 9 a.m. if I want to watch Crown Jewel here on the West Coast. So we'll probably be coming up to do the podcast around the same time as we're doing it right now, most likely next week for Crown Jewel. Also, we have a double header, double feature set for tomorrow, 2, count them, watch-alongs, basically back-to-back. The first one is going to be a members-only watch-along. The watch-along itself, viewing-wise, is going to be open to the public, but only the members can participate in the chat. We're going to be watching WWE Raw is War, November 24th, 1997, a show that I attended live. I was in the 4th row to watch the mini Bret Hart come out, to watch Crush's last night in the company, Jim Neidhart's last night in the company. All sorts of interesting things went on that show. That was The Rock looking at the beeper, the 316, that whole deal. Really, really fun Monday Night Raw, and one that I have fond memories of nearly 25 years ago next month. So we're going to be watching that during the day, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. And then right after that, we'll take an hour break, and we will regroup to watch a public watch-along open to everybody. Everybody can comment, everybody can chat, everybody can play along. Taboo Tuesday 2004, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. If there's any football, World Series, whatever. Actually, there might not be World Series tomorrow, because I think that's tonight, but there will be a shit ton of football on, so we will have that on the TV as well. We'll monitor scores, we'll hang out, we'll shoot the breeze, and we'll have a good time watching wrestling tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. The links to both of those watch-alongs are currently in the description below already, so just click them and save them for tomorrow. There will be no Raw review this Monday. I don't expect Raw to be very good. Last week's Raw was not very good, although we will talk about the return of Nikki Cross. So no Raw review on Monday, but we will be back for Dynamite on Wednesday for the watch-along. I plan to do Crown Jewel predictions on Thursday. I don't have links to either one of those shows up yet. And of course, like I said, 1 week from today, next Saturday, we will be here for a full Crown Jewel review. So you're going to get a lot of me over the next few days. Just keep that in mind. Also, hello to everybody that's here hanging out on this wonderful Usi Saturday. Make sure you hit the like button, and please subscribe if you are not already. And let me cruise to the chat and say hello to everybody. Do some quick member shout-outs. Same goes with the Patreon shout-outs, and then we will jump in to the latest news on the Chris Jericho, or I'm sorry, the CM Punk and Elite fiasco and drama, which has some Chris Jericho news in there. So we'll be getting into that in just a second. Let me just pull up all my stuff here, make sure I can see what I need to see. Looks like you guys can see me there. Right on. I want to say hello to all the channel members first. Good to see Nick Musser, Stephen Taylor, Jet the Hawk, Tatanani is in the house. Red Raven Rucker is here as well. Zane G, Isaac, Chaz Medeiros, David Brown. I know I'm saying that name wrong, Chaz. I'm so sorry. Luke McAllister's in the house, dropping in $5. Appreciate that, my friend. Hey, Greg, just got back from watching The Rock's new movie, Black Adam. Thought it was great. I have seen very few Rock movies. I've only seen like 2 maybe Rock movies in my life. I'm so illiterate to his acting style, even though he's the biggest movie star in the world. Just his movies I never seem to watch, but I hear good things about Black Adam. I have been sort of branching out. I never really watch superhero type of stuff or whatever, but I kind of like the Deadpools and whatever. So if Elizabeth and I are feeling saucy one night, we might be popping in Black Adam, but I don't think I'm going to be rushing off to the theaters to see it. But I'm glad it was good, and maybe I'll check that out because I've heard nothing but good things. And man, I'm so proud of The Rock. So proud of The Rock. As a matter of fact, the watch along that we're going to do tomorrow, I got a close-up look at The Rock. It was after the show. The Nation of Domination were in a dark match against, I don't know, a bunch of baby faces. And me and my buddy were kind of, it was in Fayetteville that night. We were kind of running all over the building, and it was just a lot more lax. Security was a lot easier back in those days. You could like access certain spots. So we just basically just kept walking. We were on the first level. We just kept walking all the way around, found ourselves completely behind the Titantron, like behind it. And you just look right down, and there's a gorilla. And there's the entrance, and there's the boys coming in and out. And the Nation was coming back from the match. And so they go through the curtain. They're now behind the curtain in gorilla, coming down the stairs, and there I'm standing. And I'm like, fuck you guys. And The Rock like flips me off. It was great. Great times. I'll share more stories like that tomorrow. But just proud of The Rock, seeing how he came, how he started, all the things he did in WWE and becoming who he is now. As a wrestling fan, you should be proud of that. He's one of us, and he's one of ours, and that's awesome. Good to see How Wheezy in the house as well, along with Zach Palgett. We got Divine Ricks, K-Dogs Kennel, and Max Pokebra rounding out all the channel members. I also want to say hello to Ben Espinoza. Paul Levesque is in the house. What's up, Triple H? Big J is here. We've got MH Nova. What's the vibes? Good mic work. Sami for World Champ in 2023. Your thoughts? I would love it. I would love it. I love Sami Zayn. If he is the person to dethrone Roman, what a story. What a story. Will it happen? Very, very unlikely, but maybe not so unlikely. We'll have to see. We'll find. None of that shit's going to happen until 2023 anyway, so we've got some time to think about that. Arthur Jones is in the house. Good to see you. Jay Zolo. We have Yessi Hernandez, Mr. All Days Off. Raymond is in the house. All right, nice little crew in here so far. Like I said, please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, and please subscribe for a lot of videos this week. It's going to be busy. Like I said, 2 watch-alongs tomorrow. We got Dynamite on Wednesday, Crown Jewel predictions on Thursday, and then 1 week from today, we'll be up here for a Crown Jewel review. And then a week from tomorrow, another watch-along. It just never ends, you know? So it's fun times here on the channel, and I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Let me cruise over here to... I did not have it pulled up. See, I'm supposed to be prepared. Don't worry, it's only going to take me 2 seconds. Supposed to be prepared for these podcasts, and I did not have my members pulled up, but I do now. Let me say thank you to brand new member joining today, William McIlwain. Appreciate you joining the family, my friend, and welcome aboard. Also want to thank Ian, Joe Dunn, and Kevin Randall Yates, Deshaun Robinson, Zach Palgett, Dreadhead Dre, Sean, 2018, Jordan Carg, Michael Hughes, Financial Truth Academy, Devlin Husband, Chaz Medarius, I hope I'm saying that right, bro. DM me on Twitter because I know we follow each other. Let me know how to say your name so I don't sound like an idiot. Michael Tong as well. Thank you very much. Longboard, Sam Piboon, Jeff McMahon, Mikey Too Cool, Luke McAllister, Tar Brehan, Zelius Ward, William, Queasy, Bo Kavlovic, Al Ramos Pro, Zach H., Chris Miner, Mike Witt, Danny Almark, Jimmy Anderson, C-Mac, Mab, Joshua Aparicio, How Wheezy, Spaz Phoenix, my boy Ronnie, Nicole Lensing, Marcus, The Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Rick, Zane G, Chris Barrera, Michael Kumo, John J. E. Dennett, S. Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Max Pokebra, Spectra, Red Raven Rucker, Reese Jones, Victor Cologne, Isaac, George Morris, Stephen Taylor, Population 420, and JJ Leg. Thank you so much for your memberships. We started those in August, and we are close to that 100-member goal that I wanted. Part of the reason why I decided to do the members-only watch-alongs to just be chat-only is to maybe entice people to join as they're watching us have a good time and discussing the show. Hey, let me join so I can participate in the conversation. Once we get over 100 members, I will shut that down and it will be just for the members. But in the meantime, until we grow those members, I kind of want the members-only watch-alongs to be viewable to the public. Just the members-only are the ones that can do the chatting until we reach about 100 members, which I think we need like 30 more. So tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your mom, tell your grandma, tell them to sign up, become a channel member so we can start making these members-only watch-alongs really exclusive. You know what I mean? But anyway, thank you as always for all of your support there. And I always also want to do a couple of quick shout-outs over on the Patreon page to Zach, Joseph Hudson, Chris Broski, Divine Ricks, Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Deshaun Robinson, Martin Can, Apron Bump Podcast, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, K-Dog's Kennel, Ryan Y, John Redifer, Claudio Clavedetcher, Daniel Rodriguez, Reese Jones, Josiah Blevins, John Riffle, Michael Kumo, Naveed, Blake Moran. As always, guys, thank you for many of you, years and years of support on the Patreon account. I appreciate that, and many of you support on both, and I cannot tell you how awesome that is and how much I appreciate it. So that should do it for all the pleasantries, the schedule updates for you, and everything else going on. Oh, also, we are coming up on the 25-year anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob in less than 2 weeks. I will have a big 25th anniversary video released that day. I'll probably premiere it. This will be an edited, recorded review podcast type of thing. I did a big Screwjob commentary for the 20th anniversary back in 2017, and I kind of talked about it then that I probably wouldn't speak about it anymore after that because we had already talked about it for so many years, and we really haven't talked about it a ton in the last 5 years. So I figured we would revisit one more time, just some updated comments from present day Good Mic Work about the Montreal Screwjob and where we sit a quarter century after the craziest night in the business went down. And I will have a lot to say about it because, as we have seen in current times, we are currently undergoing probably the most interesting and juicy piece of backstage drama since the Montreal Screwjob. In the last 25 years, I cannot remember a situation behind the scenes that was as gnarly as the Screwjob as what's going on with CM Punk and the Elite and AEW and all that stuff. Sure, we've had some backstage scuffles. Sure, we've had some people walk out on the job. We've had all of that, but nothing has created the shitstorm of buzz and dominated the internet headlines the way the Montreal Screwjob did. Well, maybe back then more the newsletters and dirt sheets and hotline headlines. Internet, 26 people were on the internet back then. But now, with the Brawl Out fiasco, Brawl Out and Screwjob, even though they're vastly different situations, the drama and the ripples that it caused through wrestling that essentially kind of affected both companies is what I find similar about them. And when I think back to what a big Bret Hart fan I was, my favorite wrestler of all time, he's the only favorite wrestler I've ever had, really, to watch that person get screwed and leave WWE in the most violent way possible, punching out the owner of the company and then going to a company that I knew couldn't wipe its own ass and was going to absolutely squander any chance they ever had with Bret. Of course, Bret went on to do jack shit in WCW. Despite winning some championships, he didn't really do anything or make much of a mark there. Not his fault. It's WCW not knowing what to do with him. That was heartbreaking. So I see some of the diehard, lifelong CM Punk fans who have loved him for so long to watch that happen and know that there is a real legitimate chance that they may never see him wrestle again. That sucks. That sucks, and I totally empathize with that, and I feel terrible. So I'm sure we will talk about that a little bit as we get into the CM Punk stuff, because I'm probably not going to be too kind to Punk in a lot of what I say, but just understand that it's not because I have anything against him, per se. I loved his return. I wish he was in AEW as the world champion right now, getting along with everybody. I'm not happy about any of this, but you still have to be honest about what's going on. So we're going to be jumping into that in just a second. But the Brawl Out stuff and the Montreal Screwjob, they're similar in a lot of ways in terms of how crazy the story is, and in terms of backstage stuff. It's one of the craziest things we've seen, and it's funny that we haven't seen anything as crazy as the Screwjob since, and now something like that is happening like 25 years literally to the day after that happened. It's crazy, man. It's a crazy state of affairs in wrestling. So anyway, we're going to be getting into that in just 1 second. Let me just make sure there's nothing else to talk about or anything to answer in the chat. We look good there. We're all nice and nice. Keep smashing that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. You can also go in and create about 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 accounts, and then like the video on all those accounts too. Hook me up. Appreciate that. I'm kidding. Anyway, let's get into some wrestling news. This is great. So I put up a mic drop a few days ago. I don't even remember when that was. I guess it would have been on Tuesday. No, it would have been on Wednesday. I guess it would have been late Wednesday night is when I did this. Yeah, after Dynamite went off the air. I put up a mic drop on the story about CM Punk's dog being injured in the Brawl Out fight. And there was basically a story coming from Punk's camp who spoke to Nick Hausman. Nick Hausman is the gentleman that basically triggered, wasn't his fault really, but he was the person that kind of triggered the entire Scrum meltdown to begin with. So the fact that Punk's camp, quote unquote, spoke to Nick was pretty incredible. They reached out for a response and they got one. And Punk's camp had said, nobody really said who is in Punk's camp, who these people were that were speaking on his behalf. But apparently he's claiming now that his dog Larry was injured in the scuffle because when he took his dog to a already pre-scheduled vet appointment, the vet informed Punk that 2 of his teeth were loose and needed to be removed. So somehow this translated into the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. BTE triggered the door open and it smashed poor Larry in the face, knocking out his 2 front teeth. That's the way it sounds like Punk is making this sound. Now, first of all, we speculated a couple days ago on the mic drop that, I'm not saying anybody's lying here, but that's extremely fishy to me, because if your dog was injured in this thing, don't you think that would be like the first thing you would hear from Punk's side? Now, granted, Punk also said that he was told to keep quiet, and he did, so maybe we didn't hear about the dog story because he wasn't supposed to say anything, or he was told not to say anything. But they didn't really reveal if Punk knew that the dog was hurt. It sounded like Punk was informed about the teeth being loose at the vet appointment, which doesn't necessarily mean the door is what triggered that. Now, there was already, right off the bat, some speculation that what's probably happening is, because this story about the dog came out right after the Elite made their return or teased their return in that vignette on Dynamite, that the investigation is concluded. It's over, because nobody would be coming back if it wasn't concluded. So the findings are obviously finding Punk at a great deal of fault here, which is why you're seeing the people come back who are coming back. So maybe in order to have one last chance to get his side of the story out there, or save face in some way, or maybe even garner sympathy to make himself look not as bad, you bring up the dog being injured. And when you saw the reaction online about that, a lot of people were saying, look, not condoning anything CM Punk did or said in the media scrum, but if his dog was injured in that changes everything. I mean, if a door is kicked open, hits your dog in the face, I think anybody in this chat, myself included, would be swinging if that happened to any of our pets. You know what I mean? So that would be an understandable reaction. Plus, you have to factor in the fact that CM Punk was injured. He probably knew in the media scrum while he was talking, I'm going to have to forfeit the title, maybe, which is crazy that he would go off on that rant knowing that he's going to be putting his boss in a position of having to do another interim champion, or just strip him altogether. Maybe he knew he was leaving and the frustration boiled over. Anybody can have a bad day. But like I've said from the start, there's no excusing the scrum comments themselves. All of these stories coming out now, I kind of really like, actually, the back and forth, because Elite came back, then you hear about the dog, and then, as we're going to talk about in a minute, Sean Ross Sapp dropped a Fightful Select article the other night at like 11 o'clock at night with this huge bombshell about Jericho apparently getting in Punk's face and calling him a cancer and a detriment to the locker room and all that stuff. A couple of other sources talked to Meltzer, saying that the dog story was bullshit and all of that. So I like that you're starting to get that little back and forth, because that's what I think is fun. And the reason I kind of think it's fun is just because it's fun to talk about it, and it helps podcasters and YouTubers like me who talk about wrestling. But also, in my mind, it might not be in everybody's mind, but in my mind, a lot of it is moot. Regardless of, because a lot of people have a stick up their ass about wrestling journalists, and they've got reasons why they don't like them for whatever reason. I have the sources I trust. I stick with them. They've never done me wrong, and I like them. So anybody who wants to freak out and get overly angry about wrestling journalists, go right ahead. But I get my news from who I get my news from, and I'm fine with that. So regardless of who or what you choose to believe, if you hear this story and you're like, oh, that's bullshit, or hear another story, that's bullshit, you can choose to believe or not believe any of these little back and forth stories that are starting to come out. Go ahead, be my guest, believe or don't believe, it doesn't matter. Just don't lose sight of one major fact. Nothing is worse than what CM Punk did at that media scrum. It all goes back to that. So if people are looking for more evidence to say, oh, see, the Elite shouldn't be brought back, Punk's not so bad because of whatever they've chosen to believe here, it doesn't matter what happened after the fact. To me, unless somebody pulled out a weapon or a gun or injured somebody's wife, animal, child, something like that, aside from actual physical injury to an innocent bystander or, the safety of others being risked, or anything major like that happening in the fight, and by all accounts, that did not happen. It was just a scuffle, a fist fight with some screaming and yelling. Nobody's lives were in danger here, Now, if that was the case, then that would change things. But from what we understand, nobody was in any serious danger, just a fight, just an altercation backstage, which, given what happened at the scrum, is understandable. So to me, no matter what you believe or don't believe about the dog's teeth or about what Jericho said to CM Punk or any of that stuff, just remember one thing that we do know to be a fact are the words that came out of CM Punk's mouth, because it's on camera. We all sat here and watched it together. So nothing is worse than that. That behavior is inexcusable. Doesn't matter about anything else in my mind. Maybe it matters to you, doesn't matter to me. That is the point of no return in my mind. Punk cannot do what he did at that scrum and then expect to stay in that company. The aftermath was stuff that you would understand. So I think that's why I'm enjoying some of these stories and this back and forth a lot more, because to me, it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. What Punk did was inexcusable. There is no excuse for that. There is no, but what about what Hangman Page? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I don't care if Hangman Page pooped in Larry's water bowl. It does not give Punk the right to publicly trash the company he works for with the boss sitting right there and all of that. And I've talked about that until I'm blue in the face, so we're not going to discuss that anymore. So I just want to say that ahead of time because of what we're about to discuss here. So Fightful Select reported, I believe, late Thursday night. I know it was like 11 o'clock, and Sean Ross Sapp was like, hey, who wants some Brawl out news? I'm like, I do. It's West Coast. I'm awake. Maybe the rest of the country is not. And he dropped a juicy doozy of an article. And I quote, we've heard about some of the names that were around during the Brawl who were suspended as they were physically involved, but there were also several that approached shortly thereafter. One of those was Chris Jericho, who was heavily lauded by those we spoke to for his resolve and demeanor stepping up during the scrum right after the incident took place. Fightful Select was told by numerous sources that Chris Jericho approached CM Punk unhappy about the brawl-out fight as well as the nature of the scrum that had just taken place. Jericho told CM Punk that he was a cancer to the locker room and a detriment to the company. Those we've spoken to didn't recount Punk's reply verbatim, but said that he effectively told Jericho it wasn't his business and needed to step off. Shortly after, Jericho stepped up to appear at the scrum. He also helped lead a talent meeting in the days that followed, and was signed to a significant extension that saw his responsibilities expanded along the way. Fightful reached out to Jericho and AEW for the story, but didn't hear back. Some close to CM Punk did confirm the interaction took place. Now, I can believe that interaction took place. I don't really have a hard time stretching my imagination that far because Chris Jericho gets in people's faces. We've seen that before. This dude got in Brock's face. So if Jericho will step up to Brock, I don't think he's too worried about CM Punk, to be honest. And, even though CM Punk does have some legitimate combat training experience, I still don't think that he could just take anybody in that locker room. I mean, Jericho's a guy that front face locked Goldberg into submission. Jericho's no joke. He's tough too. He might be in his 50s, but he's tough. And I also think the story was really funny about the dog story that we read about earlier in the week and that I did the mic drop on, where it was Punk's camp said that he was worried about his double or nothing match with Hangman Page because it might break down into an actual physical shoot fight. The dude who has had 2 matches on UFC pay-per-views is worried about a pro wrestler shooting on him? Really? I mean, I don't think Hangman Page is a weak guy by any means. I actually think if Hangman Page and CM Punk got in a fight, it would not be an automatic win for Punk. I believe that. But that almost implied that CM Punk was scared. If CM Punk was really that mad, he should have been like, bring it, motherfucker. I'll take you down and beat you into oblivion right there on live pay-per-view and really humiliate you. Shouldn't it be Page worried about Punk shooting on him, then vice versa? And plus, is Page strike you as that type of guy? He's a guy that just seems to be universally really liked in the wrestling business. And that's another reason why you got to be weird if you're CM Punk sitting there on his side of things, believing with all of his heart that he's the right one and everybody else is wrong. because nobody has really done this much damage to a locker room before as CM Punk. So how is it that he comes into this company and everybody around him is wrong, but he's the guy that has the right idea? What's more likely here, that CM Punk is right and everybody else around him is wrong? Or maybe CM Punk just really isn't that good for wrestling locker rooms? And like I said last week, the most sad thing about this is that how quickly all of this like broke down. Like, what the fuck happened? How happy CM Punk seemed to be when he got there. He walked in the door with tears in his eyes. Sat there next to Chris Jericho on commentary a couple of times on Dynamite, getting along just fine. Segment in the ring on Dynamite. He's got his arm around Hangman Page, interacting and joking with his locker room mates on Twitter. And then, like, literally immediately, upon becoming number one contender for the title and after the great feuds and everything he had with MJF and whatnot, it just starts breaking down, and it was the summer of Punk turned into the summer of hell. And by the end of the summer and into Labor Day weekend after All Out, he is gone, and probably gone for good. And I think that is incredibly sad. But when you hear about some of these stories, that makes perfect sense to me. Jericho, the next night on Dynamite, now when you go back and look at his backstage promo with some more context, now you kind of get it. He was kind of screaming at the camera a little bit, like, this is my locker room, and nobody's going to take it away from me no matter what. I mean, that was directed straight at CM Punk there. And given Chris Jericho's history and the fact that he doesn't shy away from anybody, and he probably does feel like a locker room leader there. He was the biggest star that they signed when they started. He was a big part of getting them rolling. And based on the vignettes, or the vignette that we saw on Wednesday for the Elite return, with them being erased and whatnot, that kind of implies that they're trying to send a message, hey, there would be no AEW without us, and that's very true. But at the same time, Jericho was a big help getting that company underway. I went to the Jericho Cruise in 2020, and that was only 3 or 4 months after AEW had launched, and they did the Dynamite on that show where Hangman and Omega won the championship. And I guess I remember at the end of the cruise when they're doing some matches and having a good time with the fans and pulling the turnbuckle pads off and throwing them in the crowd, and Cody spoke to the ship and talked a lot about AEW and its formation and gave Chris Jericho a lot of credit. Cody said, thank you to Chris Jericho for signing with us. His signing was a big deal. His signing is the reason we're all on this boat right now, and gave him a lot of credit. So Chris Jericho does probably feel like this is his company. And about a month ago, I know on this podcast, when we were talking about Chris Jericho, I said, if I'm Jericho, I'm looking at the situation and finding myself, it's too bad Jericho's not single and Tony Khan doesn't have a daughter. You know what I mean? Because I feel like Jericho could find himself in a position to be the Triple H of AEW. Yes, Tony Khan's going to be the Vince, but maybe Jericho can be the Triple H. He can be the guy that maybe, helps sign talent, or I don't know what his internal or office duties are in the company. Apparently he does have a role with that now with his contract extension. And I think that's awesome. Moxley and his extension also includes trainer and coaching roles and whatnot. So Jericho, maybe being some sort of an executive, maybe being involved in talent relations or creative, or maybe just being an authority figure in general behind the scenes could actually be a good thing. I mean, I can't believe I'm sitting here taking the side of a guy whose wife was at the Capitol on January 6th over a guy who came out on TV wearing a shirt that says, get your own, then tell it what to do. You'd think I'd be on CM Punk's side here, but I'm not. I'm glad Jericho got in his face. I think that's what CM Punk needed. I am just still blown away about Punk's behavior. And Jericho getting in his face really does kind of line up with who we have known Jericho to be in the past. And he seemed to take that very personally, what CM Punk did, and kind of really messing up and damaging the morale that we all perceived as pretty good in AEW. Maybe it wasn't as good as what was being reported, but if it was, it certainly was worse after CM Punk has torn through that company and made everybody not trust each other or not get along or create tense situations. So hopefully we're in the repairing and the rebuilding process here in AEW. You got 3 big names about to hit TV again, the Kenny and the Young Bucks. Adam Cole, if he gets healthy, he's going to be back, and I think AEW can just move on with their lives post-Punk without any problems. And Jericho being there as a locker room leader and being that force, maybe being the Undertaker of the locker room or whatnot, just being that 30-year veteran that everybody respects. And, when he speaks or gets in somebody's face, those are opinions that are taken seriously. So I kind of liked reading that story. I'm glad that somebody at least went up to Punk and say, yo, fuck you, dude. So I think that needs to happen. I'd be tempted to do the same thing. I just think this whole situation is just madness. Now, Dave Meltzer also elaborated in the latest newsletter, spoke to a couple of sources. Of course, he didn't reveal who these sources were, but he said that one star basically said Punk won't be back. One top star in the company said Punk won't be back. His value on screen isn't 1% worth the hassle and the black cloud he causes. So that could be any number of guys. But yeah, I definitely think CM Punk has got kind of a negative reputation in the locker room, especially now that he's likely going to be gone, now that the locker room probably also knows what the resolution is going to be. The Elite are going to be back. CM Punk is going to be gone. So now the floodgates are going to open. And you're probably going to hear a lot of people talk about how they are just happy that CM Punk is gone in general, because of course you're going to say that. If you're working in AEW, what are you going to say? Man, they fucked up letting him go. No, they're going to probably have the opposite opinion, which is why Punk might be trying to get stories out from his side to make him look a little bit less bad and a little bit less buried. Now, another source told Dave, this source entered Punk's locker room shortly after the fight started, so kind of showed up as this was going on, said that the dog story was a complete lie. He said Punk was acting like a total psycho and didn't seem to care about the dog's presence at all. Apparently, it was Kenny Omega who picked up the dog and handed it to Mega. I think she was the lawyer or the head of legal that they brought with her. She was the one that took the dog, and this source claims that CM Punk couldn't have given two shits about the dog because he was so enraged at the Elite and trying to fight them and whatnot. So, that does lend evidence to what I talked about earlier, is that in my mind, when I read the dog story a couple of days ago and we talked about it on the channel, I said, that just sounds like something that could just be a coincidence. Dog's got a vet appointment, took it in. Hey, 2 of his teeth are loose. The dog looks old as shit. Have you seen a picture? I have no idea how old Larry is, but Larry looks scraggly and mangy. He's cute. Got little teeth and everything. He's a cute dog, but he doesn't look like a spring chicken. He doesn't look like he's 1 year old. He seems a bit older than that. So that's what happens to pets. Dogs, cats, all of them, they get loose teeth. Sometimes their teeth just plain fall out. So I don't know if Punk just used that as a way to say, oh, I'm going to get this story out about my dog because that will get sympathy. But if your dog was injured in that fight, how is that not one of the first things brought up? How is that not mentioned to whoever conducted the internal investigation? Apparently the investigation is concluded, but CM Punk's camp also claims that he hasn't been contacted by AEW in any way. But I thought there was an investigation undergoing. So you had an investigation and you didn't talk to one of the primary parties of it? Find that hard to believe too. Another source noted to Dave that the investigation is not going well for Punk, which is why the dog story came out right when the Elite returned. Now, we just alluded to that earlier on. I said it is funny how that kind of all happened and coincided with each other. The Elite coming back and Punk, Punk saying that his dog got injured. So that is going to, like I said, have the floodgates open to where you might see a little bit of back and forth now in terms of stories, one after the other. A few other talents told Dave that they've decided that they wouldn't work for him, and that overall, the majority of the locker room has decidedly voted him off the island. Now, this is all coming from Meltzer, and Meltzer, like I said, you can have all the opinions you want about Dave Meltzer, but there is one thing he is pretty keyed in on, and that is AEW. I mean, nobody shuts up about, oh, AEW, Meltzer's so biased for AEW. Well, if that's true, if that's what you truly want yourself to believe, then you should also understand that Dave probably knows. If he's as biased as you think he is, then he probably is pretty clued into what's going on behind the scenes. And if people are telling him stuff, they're probably not lying to him. So a lot of the locker room, I believe, probably is super soured on CM Punk. I can completely understand that, because why would that be hard to believe? Why would that be hard to believe after seeing what CM Punk did and the problems he caused in his short time there? How is anybody out there thinking that the entire locker room is wrong and CM Punk is the guy that's got shit right? This is a guy that's burned every bridge he's ever had. He's had falling outs with lifelong friends. He stays friends with nobody. He doesn't even talk to his family, doesn't talk to his brother, doesn't talk to his parents. His sister isn't even his sister. I'm surprised he hasn't had a falling out with them, with his adopted family. I'm surprised they haven't done something to piss him off, or he just leaves them behind. I'm surprised him and AJ are still together. I mean, this guy really seems like he's impossible to get along with. Every time I've seen CM Punk in an interview or him speak in a documentary, he seems so down to earth, so cool, so chill. But apparently he's got an ugly fucking side to him that just brings out the worst in everybody. And like I've said, when you hear these stories and you see what he did at the media scrum, I just think it's better for wrestling if he just stays away. Now, we also talked last week or a couple days ago about the possibility of him joining WWE because there was a report out that Triple H had, quote, softened his stance on bringing CM Punk in. And, and that's why I kind of posed the question to you guys. What do you do if you're Triple H in this position? Well, first of all, he's got to get in this position. So let's look a little bit ahead. We still are assuming that there is a contract buyout negotiation ongoing with CM Punk and AEW. If that gets done, they negotiate a buyout that everybody agrees with. I said last week that if the story about the hang-up being the non-compete is true, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm not worried about much of a non-compete except maybe WrestleMania. Maybe I'm putting in there, fine, go to WWE, but you can't go until May. Let me get past the Rumble, past WrestleMania. That way you can't make any sort of surprise return or do what Cody did last year or anything like that. But maybe Punk says, hey, if I'm free and clear, Triple H might bring me in. I might be able to go to WWE and make a Rumble appearance or a WrestleMania appearance. But that's assuming WWE would even want to bring him in. So you got to think about that first. So if you are Triple H and you find yourself in a position where you have a contractually free CM Punk, he's worked everything out with AEW, they bought him out, he can sign with anybody he wants, what do you do? I mean, it's like on one hand, if done right, if in the right situation, we can make a ton of money. We could do what WCW didn't do with Brett. WCW dropped the ball with Brett when they had the hottest wrestler, fall right into their laps after the craziest backstage situation in the history of wrestling just happened weeks before, and you come in and you don't do anything with that. You don't capitalize on it, nothing. Maybe WWE says, man, CM Punk's got a lot of buzz, even if he's injured. I guess Royal Rumble, he wouldn't be able to make an appearance he wouldn't be able to wrestle because he's injured. Same thing with WrestleMania, but he could appear in some way, especially at WrestleMania if he wanted to. So that might be my biggest issue if I'm Tony Khan, is to make sure he can't show up in any of those shows. But by the time he's healthy again, it might be SummerSlam time. So Rumble and Mania might be out anyway, and it would be, SummerSlam time. So maybe Tony Khan wants a good year non-compete and CM Punk wants less than that. I don't know. But if he does successfully negotiate this buyout and he's free and clear and you're Triple H and you have him there, he's interested, he'll listen to what you want to say, what do you do if you're Triple H? Because both sides are going to have to want some things. I think WWE is going to want a clause in the contract that says you can't do that bullshit here. And CM Punk's going to want a clause in the contract that says, yes, I can. So both sides are going to have to come to some sort of an agreement, or there's going to have to be some understandings already made before any serious negotiations really take place. But let's just say CM Punk does have interest, because based on everything that we're reading, and if you start seeing these floodgates really open and you start seeing more stories, story after story from sources in the AEW locker room that are constantly shitting on Punk, only fueling his anger, he might get so angry that he's willing to put aside all of his differences with WWE and Triple H to where now they are his biggest enemies, and he wants to go to WWE just to spite them. He wants to go to WWE just to, I don't know, maybe get some things off of his chest in a promo. I don't know. It's so touchy. It's such a sticky situation, because if there is a buyout orchestrated or negotiated, you would think there might be some sort of an NDA or some sort of, clause where you can't talk about anything. I still don't understand how the Elite and Kenny, or how the Bucks and Kenny are going to come back, especially after they've talked about how they're being erased and not mention anything about this, because everybody knows they were suspended, everybody knows they were stripped, and everybody knows why. So how can you really ignore it I almost think that they got to come out and briefly acknowledge it and then just move on with business, that type of thing. But the vignette on Dynamite with the erasing going on kind of led you to believe that maybe there's going to be, some motivation when they come back storyline-wise. But I also think it could have just been them sending a message saying, without us, there is no AEW, which is why we're coming back to restore the company to its true form. I don't know. But, if you're Triple H, you have a decision to make. What's more important? Making money, creating a ton of buzz, or keeping, morale pretty good in your locker room, because morale and everything backstage in WWE with Vince in charge was not great, to the point where people were walking out on Monday Night Raw main events. So Triple H's regime taking over has really improved things. We've heard multiple reports to the talent just being a lot less stressed out and more happy and more trusting of the process. We've heard all that stuff. Do you really want to put this spoon in that garbage disposal? Because that's what Punk is. That's what his presence is. It's like flipping on a nice garbage disposal that's just purring, and then you drop a spoon in. That's what CM Punk is. It just fucks everything up. So it's got to be worth it in your mind. And if you're WWE, look at the people you're already bringing in. You got Logan Paul in a championship match in Saudi Arabia on Saturday. You've already got all of the outside buzz, mainstream buzz. You already have a shit ton of buzz. You've got names. You got Logan Paul on your roster. You still got Brock Lesnar. The Rock might be wrestling at WrestleMania this next year in WrestleMania 39. Against Roman Reigns. You've got names. You've got, CM Punk, yes, would be huge to bring in. It would be crazy and surreal, and, it would almost be hard to believe that you're witnessing it if he did come back to WWE. For that alone, I want to see it. And I don't think that CM Punk would be able to get away with what he got away with in AEW in terms of some of his outbursts and stuff. But, some of his outbursts have happened in WWE. Remember that promo right before he left? I forgot what it was. The Authority was in the ring, all of them. Daniel Bryan was there and Punk was there. And Stephanie or Triple H, I forgot which one it is, says something ridiculous on the mic. And in the background, you can just see CM Punk going, just shaking his head like, this fucking company. So, there's a lot of bad feelings there that have to be overcome. I asked you guys on Twitter to give me your opinions last night. A lot of you said the same thing. I just don't think he's worth the hassle. Don't think he's worth the headache. I am kind of agreement with that as well, because, CM Punk, even in the ring, it's just CM Punk's name and his presence that is really the draw. He's a great professional wrestler, but athletically he's not that great, but he still has amazing matches. But he's also injury prone. He's been injured twice in AEW. How much value does he really have? Could you trust him to book him in a long-term program with a big payoff at a pay-per-view a few months down the road without blowing out another knee or a quad or a shoulder or whatever the fuck his problem is? So there's a lot of things I think in my mind, if you're Triple H, you have to consider before bringing him back in, and you have to consider how bad you want to harm or stick it to your competition. Do you really want to dangle and flaunt CM Punk in AEW's face? Are you really winning in that scenario? Hey, look at us, because largely I think it's, AEW is the one that's going to have to be pushing CM Punk out of there. We haven't heard too many stories of CM Punk saying, I want to leave this company at all costs. I'm never coming back there. CM Punk's camp talked about the dog. They didn't talk about what CM Punk wanted to do. That's what I want to know. How does Punk feel? If an agreement or if anything's able to be worked out for him to come back to AEW, is that something he would want to do? So in my mind, he might want out of there and he might want to leave, or, maybe he would stay if he could. I don't know. So basically it's going to be based on what Punk wants to do and how pissed off he is. But if he's really, really mad and he really, really wants to get back at him, then maybe he reaches out to Triple H. But, if I'm Triple H, do you take the high road? Do you take the high road in that and say, AEW is our competition and everything, but this isn't going to make us look great. If we just take CM Punk and then just bring him on TV, what's just to mess with them? We got a whole locker room of great men and women back here who are all trying to make it, and they don't want their spots to be compromised because AEW and WWE are having a little pissing contest or something. You don't want to bring him in and have it feel like that either. You want to bring him in because you can make money with him. The fans want to see him. You got a great program in mind, that type of thing. Not just to bring it in just for the shock value, because any CM Punk return in WWE would make all of our jaws hit the floor, but like I said, is that really worth it in the long run? Some of you think no, some of you think yes. I'm kind of in the middle with Triple H. I much more trust Triple H and WWE system than AEW's, because AEW is very young. They're only 3 years old. They're having some growing pains, making some mistakes, and Tony Khan just had a big learning experience at All Out and knows to not let that shit happen again. But I don't think that would have even happened in WWE system anyway. So some of the feathers that Punk ruffles behind the scenes, I don't even know if he could ruffle them to that extent in a WWE locker room with that management and that system around him. I did, with guys like, Roman in the locker room and whatnot. So I just, and Brock, don't forget Brock. I mean, it would be fun to see CM Punk come out on Raw and get on the mic, and then Brock Lesnar comes out, and maybe Heyman's back there in the middle of them somehow, and I could just see CM Punk. Yeah, Brock, you went to the UFC and you did better than me, sure. But that was there. This is here. And the last time we fought, I took you to the limit. So how about round 2, big man? What do you say? I'd be into it. I loved that CM Punk and Brock Lesnar SummerSlam match. I thought it was great. Put him in the ring now. It's going to be hard to, suspend your disbelief that CM Punk could actually beat Brock Lesnar. But if you tell the story that pro wrestling is different than UFC and it's a whole different ball game, and, maybe you could get that match, intriguing enough to actually do it. But other than that, I have zero interest in seeing CM Punk come in and dethrone Roman, and leapfrog guys like Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens and Cody, who all have put in work in recent years and months that have proven that they should be getting that shot. Not Mr. Grumpy Pants who's injured all the time. So that's my feeling on it. So at the end of the day, you guys know how I feel. I love CM Punk, was a big CM Punk fan, but I am not happy with the way he behaved at that media scrum. I have basically completely blamed him the whole time for this. I stand by my stance that it doesn't matter what was done or said before or after the media scrum. Nothing is worse than that. And that alone should have gotten you fired, suspended, or just booted out of the company completely. Forget about the backstage fight. That scrum was all it would take for me as a talent. If I'm sitting there as a proud member of the AEW roster and I'm listening to that motherfucker say that shit, it'd be over for me too. So it doesn't mean that I don't love CM Punk, don't appreciate him, don't love what he's given us, appreciate his value and the uniqueness of his style and his character and who he is. It's been a very interesting part in pro wrestling, and I wish it was still a part of pro wrestling, but it's not, and that's not my fault, and it's not any of your fault. So it's the only person who's faulted is a CM Punk for believing and having the ego to believe that he can do and say things like that and not have any repercussions. To me, that's the craziest part, that a guy as old as CM Punk and as mature as him and who has been around so long, made the mistake that you would expect an angry 21-year-old to make. And that's what I find so weird about this whole thing. So I'm sure we will hear more stories, in the coming days and maybe even weeks from Punk's side. And there are going to be certain parts of this that maybe you can empathize or sympathize with CM Punk a little bit, but in my mind, just going off the way he did at the scrum, no coming back from that. So anyway, that's the latest on the Elite and CM Punk drama. We all keep our ears and eyes peeled for more information on that. It's juicy drama. Always fun here on the channel. Do me a favor, by the way, keep smashing that thumbs up button now as we get into Sasha Banks. We've got some Sasha Banks information. She just tweeted out a couple of hours ago, quote, "I hope the rumors are true," referencing that there has been a lot of chatter online about Sasha Banks and her potential return to the company. There have been talks about Sasha Banks and Naomi coming back for a long time. We had a couple of Monday Night Raws where they thought they might show up, and they haven't. They've both been off doing their own thing. Sasha's been doing a shitload of modeling. She's been appearing various places outside of the company. She's changed her Twitter handle to Mercedes. If there is any chance of Sasha and Naomi, or just Sasha coming back to WWE, then I would just kind of continue doing this. I would tell Sasha to just go out there and live her life, make it look like she's doing other stuff, and then you just bring her back, or both of them back in a really big surprise moment or something, or maybe even build it for a pay-per-view. I don't know. But Dave Meltzer is claiming that Sasha Banks is still under contract. There was some talk that maybe her contract has run out, but I believe after the walkout, they added time to their deals or something. So she is not contractually free from WWE at the moment. Now, WWE is still trying to get new deals worked out, but a few hangups still remain apparently, and there are still a little bit far apart. I don't know what either side would want. You know, it sounded like Sasha's main issue, the main issue her and Naomi walked out of Monday Night Raw that night, was because of creative. I think creative has been largely repaired in terms of some of the needless dumb shit that you're doing. You know, Sasha Banks, it's going to be hard to guarantee somebody specifics. I know sometimes title runs are promised in contracts and whatnot, but if Sasha wants some reassurance that she's not going to be fucked around creatively, I think she should already have that reassurance just with Triple H being in charge. You know what I mean? So I feel like, much like the Bray Wyatt stuff, before we saw the first White Rabbit tease, before any of that started, I think most of us, and you'd probably agree, felt like Bray Wyatt was going to be coming back. You just felt like that was the more likely place for him coming back to WWE. And then when the White Rabbit started, we were like, oh, here he is. Sasha Banks feels like the same way. I just can't see her turning up in AEW at this point. When she first walked out, fuck yeah, I was all about it. Vince was still there, making everybody's lives miserable. Sasha and Naomi walked out of a match on Raw, and I was happy about it at the time because I thought WWE needed a wake-up call. Their TV is so terrible and uninspiring and just makes no sense half the time, and it was frustrating not only to the fans, but the talent as well. I like that somebody stood up and say, what you guys are doing is stupid, and you're wasting our time. It's not worth it to, for us to even do this if that's what you have planned. I like that she did that. Some people do, it's unprofessional or whatever. I'm like, it just depends on the situation. There's going to be plenty of instances where walking out is unprofessional. Sasha Banks and Naomi were unprofessional, definitely, but I can also understand the frustrations. I believe that walking away from an advertised match is a fireable offense. And that's one of the few unforgivable sins, if you will. So I do think they were wrong for that. But as a fan who is also frustrated with creative, that part of me liked it because maybe it's the wake-up call that WWE needs because they don't seem to have any care creatively what they're doing. And then as soon as that stuff happened, a couple of weeks later, Vince retires, Triple H regime takes over. Things have been a little bit more cohesive now. You've got some more continuity creatively. You feel much better as a fan watching the show, that if you watch something on TV, it actually has meaning. It's not just thrown at you for no reason to fill time. You get a little bit more of those positive feelings when you're watching WWE now with Triple H in charge. So that, to me, should be all Sasha Banks should need in terms of creative reassurance, because she is a star and a great wrestler. She will always, I believe, be used as a top-tier talent. So I don't know what else she would want. Even without her making some sort of creative prearrangements in her contract, she's already going to be treated pretty huge. I don't know if they were going to bring her back in just to punish her and bury her for what she did. Hopefully that the two sides can just come together and everybody can resume their professional relationship. So in my heart of hearts, I feel like Sasha Banks is going to come back. I don't know when that is, but I honestly don't care. That's another part of the side. I like Sasha Banks and everything, but I'm not like looking this story up every day on the internet trying to keep track of, what's the latest with Sasha Banks? I don't really care when she comes back. I feel like she's gonna. I feel like Royal Rumble is around the corner. We got WrestleMania next year. If we get through Rumble and Mania and she's still not back yet, then maybe she's not coming back. But with these shows, with these major shows on the horizon, if she's going to come back, I think that it's probably going to be maybe around WrestleMania time, unless she makes some crazy appearance at Crown Jewel. I don't think she will. She'd be spotted there if she was all the way over there. I suppose Survivor Series, she could turn back up, or maybe even around the holidays, her and Naomi come in. I don't know. But at this point, it's already been this long. I would keep the fans guessing. If Triple H and Sasha Banks have got some little handshake or some sort of little personal agreement between the two of them, we're going to bring you back in. But let's just take a couple more months. Just keep doing your thing. Let's hopefully the rumors and the speculation will maybe quiet down a little bit. And then maybe you can hit us with a surprise return at the Royal Rumble, especially if you were able to work in another surprise return in the Women's Rumble, because I think a lot of people, even if we hear no news on Sasha Banks, nobody's going to forget about her. So when you get to the Rumble, people are going to wonder where she is anyway. So if you bring somebody else back instead, who I don't even know who's out there who's as big as her, and then maybe that kind of, the fans are so focused on that, and then the very next person is Sasha Banks. I don't know how you really work that out. Or maybe her and Naomi come back together, challenge the tag team champs, because they were tag team champs when they walked out. I still feel like WWE would or Triple H would want to rectify that in some way. I don't know. But at some point, I believe, personally, Greg believes, in 2023 or late 2022, but I feel like 2023 is more likely, we will see Sasha Banks back in the WWE. And I think we will see Naomi as well, as her husband, is in a faction that's kind of doing good on WWE TV right now. So we will see if Sasha Banks comes back. Last night on SmackDown, we saw the return of Emma. Fans didn't really seem to care much about that. We'll talk about it in a minute. She got her ass kicked by Ronda Rousey, so Emma is back in the company, and there are reports that Triple H is looking to bring back Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green is wrapping up her deal, I think, with Impact or whatnot. Whatever she's got going on there with Mickie James is finishing up, and the rumors are heading that she is going to be heading back to WWE because she was already there, and one of those names that got released, one of those head-scratching releases, because I do think Chelsea Green has got some value. I like Chelsea Green, and who knows, maybe they can get her boyfriend or her fiance, or shit, they might be married. Maybe Zack Ryder comes back in. I could see it. I could see Chelsea and Zach coming in. I've also seen Mia Yim's name being tossed around. I was kind of hoping we would see Mia Yim in AEW because that's where Keith Lee is, but she has not really been turning up anywhere else. And Mia Yim, I think she did work Impact a little bit right. So Mia Yim coming back would be awesome. That would put another married couple in separate companies. We have a lot of those, but I think they could do it, and it would be great to see Mia Yim come back. And then just today, Fightful Select reported that WWE also has interest in bringing back Tegan Nox. What this tells me is that Triple H is beefing up the women's division, which it desperately needs. And it doesn't just need random women coming out there wrestling 2-minute matches. Like, they need a division. They need people. They need names. They need some beef on that roster, and they got it. If they bring back Emma and Chelsea Green, Mia Yim, Tegan Nox, all these women are great and can offer something to your division. I think I still don't even think you need to have 2 women's championship belts, but you do. I would much rather just have, I wish WWE would switch to what AEW does. 1 women's title and 1 secondary title. So maybe, I know Triple H won't do this, but in a perfect world, what I would do is I would somehow find a match, maybe Ronda and Charlotte again or something like that, where you have your 2 women's title holders, unify the championships, and then create a women's intercontinental title. I would love that. An intercontinental title with the old design, but yes, I know it's the first time I'm ever going to recommend a white strap. Maybe white strap belts look better on women, so you put the old, like the Cody belt, you get the intercontinental title with the white strap, maybe throw some sparkles on there or do something to girly it up. I would love for that to be a thing in WWE because I think the TBS title is a beautiful looking championship. I think Jade's TBS title looks better than the TNT title. So I would love if WWE had a nice secondary title. Fuck the 2 women's titles. Have your 1 women's champion and then create a women's intercontinental title. Hold the tournament in Rio de Janeiro if you have to. Just do it. Or maybe just crown an intercontinental champion. Say she won the tournament down there. So I would love them to do that because I just don't think you really have enough women to have 2 world champions. When you have 2 world champions, that means you have like a 1 in 5 chance of becoming a world champion in WWE. And I think those chances are too great. So I would unify the titles, add a women's IC, and beef up your roster. That's what I would do to get your championship more value. When you have a bunch of women and you have 1 on top, I don't know. I just like that format better, but that's way in the future. Right now, we just got to increase the women's division and the talent on there. Sounds like Triple H has interest in doing that, and let me know if you can think of any other names that Triple H might want to bring back from his NXT past. We know poor Tegan has had the knee problems and stuff, but you bring her back. You got Emma back, Chelsea, Mia Yim. Would love to see those ladies come in to the WWE and help out that roster big time. I will be answering these super chats. Let me knock out Spaz Phoenix's earlier because I know you chimed in with that $20 earlier, my friend. Go shout out Spaz Phoenix on his YouTube channel. Give him a subscription and check him out. Appreciate that $20 drop earlier from you, dude. Kind of cool how Trips is building a strong women's mid-card. I'm just talking about this. The returns of Candice and Emma. Sarah Logan, that's right. So Candice has recently returned, and Sarah Logan, is she back? I know she was in that vignette with the Viking Raiders. I don't know if she's made it to TV yet. Chelsea Green, yeah, more next main eventers. rather than more now main eventers. Exactly. You kind of are talking a lot about what I was just speaking about there. Triple H bringing in some of these women because that's what you need. You really need to increase this roster because all those women talked about are good and capable. Sarah Logan wasn't great in the ring, but I liked Sarah. I still thought she had a look of presence to her, and just sticking her with the Raiders would be kind of fun. Thank you to Joshua Aparicio, member for 3 months. Appreciate it. I am having an Usi day. I hope you are as well. And also thank you to Population 420, also member for 3 months. CM Punk to WWE confirmed. Maybe not yet, unless it's hit the airwaves right now, and I'm too busy podcasting to see it. Mark Gallan, appreciate the $2, or Gallon, appreciate 2 from you. Had a feeling Jericho's Ring of Honor reign was about Punk. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is about Punk. And place your bets now. Jericho is going to be facing a former Ring of Honor champion, but they didn't say world champion. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a world champion. The person immediately on my radar for Jericho's title defense would be Christopher Daniels. But if it's not necessarily a world champion, it could be anybody. That really opens up the door. Fucking Kushida could come in and work against Jericho. We have no idea. So place your bets below who you think it might be. We also have some news on Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank matches potentially moving to WrestleMania. Now, WrestleVotes claims that the idea of putting one Money in the Bank match on each night of WrestleMania is very much alive and very much on the table. Now, when we heard the glorious news that WWE has decided to do away with the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, which I love, we also heard about the possibility of scrapping more gimmick pay-per-views. Now, I've never been a fan of Hell in the Cell or Elimination Chamber, but I kind of understand that sometimes you need the chambers to determine WrestleMania title shots, so maybe they can't really leave. And when we got the new pay-per-view schedule, it does look like Elimination Chamber is on the schedule for 2023. But things like TLC, I think, are going to be a thing of the past, and Hell in the Cell is going to be gone. I was actually okay. Last week, we kind of talked about a theoretical pay-per-view schedule. If you got rid of Hell in the Cell and bring back some other ideas, how I would kind of formulate it out. And I thought that Money in the Bank was the one gimmick show that could technically stick around. I don't mind it. I hate Hell in the Cells. I hate Elimination Chambers. I don't like any of that stuff. I hated TLC. But I thought that maybe Money in the Bank could stick around because it was a good thing to do after WrestleMania. Give the fan, because after WrestleMania, you had that little lull period where, you're coming down off the high of that and you need something to kind of guide you into the summer, and having 2 briefcase holders are usually a fun way to do that. But if you now move both Money in the Bank matches to WrestleMania, I actually am okay with that idea if they want to do that. I'm perfectly fine with it. I liked when Money in the Bank matches were on WrestleMania. It's also a way to get multiple people involved. They were an attraction, something you could look forward to every year. And if WWE does decide to go to that format, putting the women on night 1 and the men on night 2, or vice versa, I would be perfectly fine with that. And I think that would add a lot of fun to WrestleMania. So if they did do that, then perhaps you could bring back a King of the Ring in June or whenever Money in the Bank would be. And I pitched the idea of having that pay-per-view every year be in England. I mean, they're the ones with kings and queens, right? So shouldn't the king and queen of the ring be over there and not over here? It's not president of the ring. It's king and queen of the ring. So maybe if you replaced Money in the Bank with the King of the Ring, did an international pay-per-view, and gave those fans that every year as something to look forward to, I think it would be really nice, and it would be deserving, to have fans in the UK get a pay-per-view that they're guaranteed to have every year, that is also guaranteed not to be just a for UK only or that special type of event. No, it's on the calendar every year and you guys get it. Y'all, my fellow Americans, would you have any issue with that? I wouldn't. Let's help our friends out across the pond. They deserve it. They're great fans over there, and I would love that. So if Money in the Bank moves to WrestleMania, I think that's great. I have no issue with it whatsoever, and I am looking forward to that potential of them moving that back to WrestleMania. I think that would be great. I had another thought about that I wanted to mention. I can't remember what it was now. It was a big one too. Damn, what the hell was it about? It was something regarding Money in the Bank or the pay-per-views. I forgot what I was going to say, but anyway, yeah, Money in the Bank possibly heading back to WrestleMania, and Greg is totally fine with that. We also have some news on a couple of AEW signings. According to Mike Johnson of PW Insider, Bandito and Juice have inked deals with AEW. I have not seen the All Elite graphic for either one of these gentlemen. Bandito made a hell of a showing for himself in that match with Jericho a couple of weeks ago, and Juice has made an appearance on AEW recently as well, wrestling Jon Moxley. He's a great personality, too, to have, I think, in the backstage locker room. And, of course, he is with Tony Storm, so that just makes all the more sense. Also, we want to offer our congratulations to Sheamus. Sheamus and, I guess, longtime fiance Isabella got married in New York City. At least I think it's New York City. There's these pictures floating around of Sheamus and his wife, along with Miro and Lana and Drew McIntyre and Cesaro and Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, all in a high-rise building with buildings all around them. Looks like New York City to me. And if you have seen these pictures, did you notice anything about Seth Rollins? Anything different about him? Bro has dyed his hair blonde again. We are coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the Shield's debut at Survivor Series in 2012, right? Yeah, 2012. That was when CM Punk, I believe he beat Ryback and John Cena. Is that the match it was? And then Seth and company hopped the barricade and did the damage to Ryback or something and helped CM Punk retain. They were originally supposed to be his Shield and then kind of changed directions. So Seth has got some blonde hair in there. So I don't know if that's a tribute to his former Shield days or just to, just mark the anniversary with a little tribute like that. I don't know, but it should be interesting to see him come out this Monday on Raw in that getup. And congratulations to Sheamus. Really cool to see a lot of those pictures. Riddle was there on a bus with Damian Priest and some other people. So it looked like a fun party. Always good and cool to see all of those friends. It almost looked like a big WWE pick. I mean, you'd had half of the, what was that faction that Miro and Wade Barrett were in? I guess that wasn't all of them, but yeah, it was like Miro and Cesaro and Sheamus all there together. Cool pictures. Congratulations to Sheamus, doing some of the best work he's ever done in his career right now, and loving me some Sheamus. He's the man. So congratulations to him on his nuptials. Happy to hear that stuff. All right, I think that does it for the news for the moment. Man, I wish I could remember what I was going to talk about in terms of that Money in the Bank. I had some sort of thought or idea that I was like, make sure you mention that, and now I done forgot. Maybe it'll come to me as we move on here for the rest of the podcast. League of Nations, thank you. But it wasn't, Drew wasn't in that. The League of Nations was like Alberto, and was it Alberto, Sheamus, Miro? Forgot who the fuck was in it, and Wade Barrett maybe, I think. Yeah, Del Rio, Sheamus, Rusev, and Barrett. Okay, so no McIntyre, but Sheamus and Rusev were in that. And who knows what Del Rio was doing these days? I don't care. Bring back Vengeance. Oh, maybe that's what it was. Vengeance. I had an idea for a pay-per-view. I can't remember what the fuck it was. Thank you. Yeah, okay. League of Nations. They were there to get Roman over. Of course they were. What is anybody there to do as a heel back in those days? Anyway, I want to talk briefly about this past week's Dynamite. Ratings are in 997,000, so they came in just under 1 million. Not bad, a lot of sports on. As long as they're in that million mark, I'm not really too concerned about AEW's rating. 0.32 in the share, which is not bad either. And, of course, the big news on Dynamite this past week, which we all watched together, was the big vignette, the teaser, return of the Elite, with everybody being erased or Thanos'd out of the screens during various historic moments in AEW. And to me, that whole vignette was basically implying or sending a message that there really is no AEW without these guys. So now that they're back, AEW is back intact. I wonder if that's just their way of letting the fans know. Like, basically, is the vignette their way of acknowledging what happened, showing them being erased, and then when they come back to TV, they really don't mention anything about it. They're just back now. Maybe they do cut a promo and say AEW is nothing without us. We're happy we're back or whatever. But part of me, some of me feels like that vignette was their way of acknowledging what goes on, meaning that when they come back to TV, I don't think you're necessarily going to see Kenny Omega get on the mic and start talking shit about CM Punk, because why talk about him when you can't have a match with him? You know, he's gone. So I think that maybe the vignette was their way of addressing the whole thing, and then when they come back, we don't get a whole lot on it. I think that's possible. Also, on Dynamite, we saw what appeared to be the babyface turn of MJF. Now, on Dynamite, Moxley, of course, who the hell did he wrestle? He wrestled Penta, right? And MJF had a promo earlier on in the night where Stokely then interrupted him, and MJF basically informed and instructed Stokely to not have the Firm touch Jon Moxley. I don't want to take any shortcuts. I want to face him one-on-one. That's the whole story here. MJF doesn't want to use his diamond ring that he talked about. He doesn't want the Firm getting involved, and he demanded that Stokely leave Moxley alone. Of course, they don't listen. They interfere at the end of the Penta and Mox match. They start beating down Moxley. MJF comes out. He's pissed off. He fires Stokely right there while he's standing around the entire Firm, which he knew was stupid. And then Morrissey immediately attacks MJF, and then the Firm swarms MJF. Morrissey takes him to the outside of the ring and puts him through a table, and they beat the hell out of him. So all the fans online and on Twitter and in the chat are saying, holy shit, I think MJF has just turned babyface, but I think not so fast. I don't know if this is some big ruse by MJF and he plans on definitely taking a shortcut against Jon Moxley at Full Gear, potentially even turning and joining up with William Regal. Does that mean the Firm is in on all this? I kind of feel like MJF taking an ass kicking from the Firm isn't something that his character would do just to try to make it believable. There's probably a lot of ways you could do that without having to go through a table. So I feel like the Firm stuff might be legit, but MJF still has his plan in his head. He's still got this idea in his back pocket. Could it be that, maybe William Regal becomes the leader of the Firm and MJF, because Regal has had some dissension in the Blackpool Combat Club lately? Maybe he's growing tired of that or frustrated with that, so he's deciding to go with another player. I talked about on the Dynamite stream that it feels like Regal would want to abandon the faction since they can't get along and go with the one guy. I'm going to mentor him and him alone because you can't have an argument with yourself. And, it's more worth my time to make sure that this person makes it. Who knows what his motivations would be in that. But it looks like what they could be doing a little bit here is mirroring what The Rock did in 1998, because The Rock was a heel all summer long in the nation, feuding with DX, all that stuff. He was a heel in that SummerSlam match against Triple H in the ladder match that he lost. And then right after that, he kind of turns babyface as he starts having problems with Mr. McMahon, and they're heading into the Deadly Game tournament, and Mr. McMahon makes it seem like he wants to keep The Rock out. He wants to keep Stone Cold out too, but primarily The Rock. Now, that interaction with McMahon kind of turns The Rock babyface, much like the Firm attacking MJF here did the same thing for him. And The Rock was face for about 2 months, maybe less, about 2 months or so, and then you head into Survivor Series. He's going into that match as this babyface favorite. He's in the finals now against the corporate brainwashed mankind, and then Vince and the corporation swerve everybody. They go with The Rock. He turns heel, embraces with the McMahons. I could see a lot of the same things here with MJF, because another thing that The Rock's brief babyface run got to do is give the fans a taste of what The Rock was going to be like when he inevitably does turn babyface the next year. Because he was babyface in the fall. You remember how fast all that happened? He was babyface for those 2 months prior to Deadly Game, turned heel at Deadly Game, but then what? Only remained heel through WrestleMania. And I think through Backlash. And then as soon as they got done with the Austin storyline, you had the blow off at Backlash. I'm pretty sure it was the very next night on Raw that Shane McMahon slapped The Rock and his eyes bugged out. He went nuts and he was a babyface from that moment on. So maybe this is the same thing. Maybe the fans are getting a little taste of what it's going to be like when MJF turns babyface. According to some reports, there are some people in AEW that feel he should be pushed as one. But I think you should try to do what you did with The Rock here. Let MJF come out on TV, building up to Full Gear as a babyface, doing all babyface things, saying babyface shit on the mic, and let the fans feel what that's like, just so we know. And then you turn him heel at Full Gear, and he can be an asshole heel, but again, he can just pick up right where he left off, being that great asshole heel, where even when he's a heel, the fans are still popping for him. They did the same thing with The Rock. The Rock was a heel when he was doing this shit with his face, and every time he would do that, I was in the audience live for a lot of these promos, and every time he would do that as a heel, the fans would just eat it up and laugh and die. WrestleMania 15, I remember the same thing. I was up in the upper deck, and I'm watching The Rock's promo backstage on that scoreboard, that big box thing that hangs in the middle of all those arenas. And he's on the screen up there, and he does that thing, and the First Union Center there in Philly was cracking up. And this guy was a heel, huge heel, going in against the biggest babyface in WWE in the main event. So that's why this whole situation reminds me of that, because I think you're in an opportunity now where this week on TV, next week on TV, before we get to Full Gear, you're going to get some tastes of MJF as a babyface, what he does, what he says. I'm sure a lot of fans are going to complain, I can't believe they turned him face. I'm like, just wait to see what happens, because he might not be a face for long. So I think that if you do that, it will give the fans an idea of what his inevitable face turn in the future will be like without pulling the trigger on it quite yet. So I love the idea of MJF turning heel at Full Gear, screwing Moxley, cheating to win, and potentially even joining forces with William Regal, and then going on a heck of a tear for the next several months as a heel champion, and maybe Kenny Omega or Adam Cole takes the title off of him next year sometime, Double or Nothing perhaps, and then right after that, MJF becomes a face. I could maybe see that happening. That might be a lot of fun. So I'm not too concerned with what they did on Dynamite yet. I don't think that that's absolute. If anybody has concerns of, I don't know if turning MJF as a babyface is a good idea, why don't you just wait and see if he actually is one first before we fly off the rails? So this week on Dynamite should be pretty fun. I do have plans to be up here and watching that with you guys live. Here's what we have on tap. Huge card. Chris Jericho taking on a former Ring of Honor champion. Chris Daniels is at the very top of my list for that potential person. Unless it's not a former world champion, then it could be anybody, and that really opens up the doors. We also have Orange Cassidy defending the All-Atlantic, North American, All-American Slam, the All-Atlantic title. Triple threat match against Luchasaurus and Rey Fenix. We have Darby Allin taking on Jay Lethal. Jade Cargill defending her TBS title against Marina Shafir. And we have Jon Moxley taking on Lee Moriarty in an AEW title eliminator match. So I guess that means if Moriarty gets the win, he gets a title shot. We also have a sit-down interview with Renee Paquette and Britt Baker and Saraya. And we have a daddy-ass birthday bash. That is what I'm ready for. Daddy-ass birthday bash. Hook me up with some of that. Have you guys seen the House of Black videos on Twitter? Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, Brody King, and Julia Hart all tweeted out cryptic little videos of themselves with the headline in Elegy of the Forgotten. What the fuck that means? So it looks like the House of Black are heading back in full force. There was a lot of talk about Malachi Black maybe getting a conditional release from AEW or heading back to WWE and all of that, it looks like. And then he came out and refuted those claims and said that he's just taking time off and fans should mind their own fucking business and whatnot. And he's all pissed off or whatever when, he was the one that started the rumors himself when he publicly said he asked for his release. So he seemed a little mad for no reason there, just for fans speculating on something that he kind of started. But they are back, and it looks like they are heading back to TV soon, hopefully to do a little bit more than what they were doing before. You can release all these cryptic videos you want on Twitter. If you don't do shit on TV, then what does it matter? So hopefully this time, creatively, they are a little bit more, creatively fulfilled or satisfied in terms of what they were doing. I thought the faction was still very strong, but, Malachi's a guy that I think should be a world championship contender, contending for the AEW title, and he was barely wrestling at all. If he was, it was in 6-man matches, and sometimes he's losing, and it's on Rampage, and, not the best use of him. So hopefully Malachi, another guy, Miro, Lana even went on record saying that Tony Khan likes his favorites, and it's just business, nothing personal. Miro's another guy who I thought was hot, doing good work, and just started not being visible on TV. Was off for a while, came back, and then disappeared again. So AEW definitely has work to do there in terms of getting and distributing the proper amount of TV time. But another thing you have to remember that's vastly different between WWE and AEW, and I've talked about this before, being an older fan. When I was a kid, granted, shows were much shorter back then, and a lot of times TV would, at least in WWE, TV would be a series of squash matches, maybe one feature match, a bunch of interviews, and basically building your next show or building your next town, or when pay-per-view started, building your next pay-per-view. But even back in the day, when I would watch Superstars or Wrestling Challenge on the weekend or Primetime Wrestling, I would go a couple of weeks at a time without seeing certain people. Sometimes I wouldn't see the Intercontinental Champion for a month, you know, if it just worked out that way, because these are all tapings. They were taped away in advance. You know, you do a lot of interviews and try to get people visible on TV, but sometimes it wasn't for very long, and all the matches you saw were just, you know, like squash enhancement matches. So nowadays, things have changed and the business have evolved to such a degree where it moves so fast and you have so many hours of TV every week. It's gotten to the point now where if fans don't see somebody, they wonder where they are. 1 week without Seth Rollins. Oh my God, is Seth Rollins okay? Maybe he just wasn't on TV this week. It's not the end of the world. So AEW, you know, if fans say, hey, where was so-and-so this week? I'm like, he just wasn't booked. And I think that's the case in AEW a lot. Now, I think they take it to too much of an extreme. I think some guys are absent for too long. I firmly believe that you don't need every star on the show every week. And I think wrestling fans, modern fans, have been conditioned by WWE because that's what you see. They get everybody involved every week. Rey Mysterio is on the show every week in some form. Anybody who's under contract and on the main roster, for the most part, not all of them, but I'd say 90%, 80 to 90% of the main roster talent are at least seen in some way every week on WWE. To the point, like I said, where if 1 week somebody's not there, fans start asking Twitter where they were. I'm like, maybe they just weren't there. It's not the end of the world. So I think part of the fans' complaints about, oh, where's so-and-so? We haven't seen him in a while. A lot of that is due to WWE's conditioning, how they produce TV and how fans have gotten used to seeing everybody every week all the time. Does not have to be like that, but at the same time, you don't want to keep people off TV for months at a time, and especially perfectly capable people like Miro and Malachi and guys like that. So I think AEW's got to find a balance there. I think the fans need to stop freaking out if they go 1 week without seeing a star. But the same thing, remember a couple weeks ago on Raw, Kevin Owens wasn't there. Where's Kevin Owens? I'm like, who cares? He's not on the show. So there's got to be a balance there. Fans need to learn to not freak out if 1 week somebody's missing, but AEW needs to learn not to forget about great talent that they have in that locker room. You got some great people back there eating steak. Get them out on TV. Miro is too valuable to have sitting back there. So AEW's got to work on some of that stuff. And hopefully they will in 2023, because when you start not seeing somebody on TV, it tends to keep going, right? You know, once you notice somebody hasn't been on AEW TV in a while, then they're just never on there for some reason. So they do have some time management, some TV management that things have to get, or things need to be improved upon, I believe. But, you know, at the same time, you got to remember they're still only dealing with 3 hours of live TV. WWE's got 5. It's a whole different game being played over there in WWE land. So anyway, Dynamite looks pretty good. Last night's Rampage, got a brief look at it. Didn't watch much of it, though. Did see that Jon Moxley defeated Daddy Magic. It looked like he was a replacement for Wheeler Yuta. That whole situation was weird. I saw that Wheeler posted a video, I think on social media, where he said he double booked himself. But because of that, don't fret. We're gonna have the Blackpool Combat Club replace me with the world champion. Jon Moxley's going to take my place. And I just thought that was odd. That seems like a total fucking kayfabe thing, because Wheeler Yuta isn't doing the one double booking, because I guess in the whenever he agreed to the match, he was already booked for New Japan Strong. So he announced that he would be honoring his commitments since he made the one to New Japan first. But that seems like it was all orchestrated and done on purpose to advertise Wheeler, or maybe AEW advertised him without realizing he was double booked. But Wheeler took the heat for that and says, I double booked myself. But I don't really think that's true. We also saw Wardlow defeating Matt Taven to retain the TNT title. So that's Matt Taven's first match in AEW. Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett got involved after the match too. Samoa Joe came out to make the save, and they announced also on Rampage that next week Mike Tyson would be returning to AEW to do guest commentary on Rampage next week. Not Dynamite, but Rampage. That's great. Mike, I'll be interested to hear what you have to say next week on Rampage. Second or third appearance for Mike in AEW. I know he was there last year. Pretty sure it was still kind of during the pandemic times, and didn't they catch him like sleeping or something sitting in the chair there? I don't know what he was doing, but not very memorable first appearance for him in AEW. Maybe next week will be better. Raw this past week, not a great show. I had no intention of doing a review for the show because it felt like old times. It was getting to be about an hour or two before Raw was set to go live, and we only had like 1 or 2 matches announced. Didn't feel like, I mean, they're building for Crown Jewel, so it didn't feel like a week where we were really going to see any sort of major surprises. But we did see a couple of cool things. Number one was the feud that apparently has kind of started with Seth Rollins and Mustafa Ali that I really hope culminates or ends and pays off with Ali actually winning the United States title from Seth Rollins. I would love that. He needs some wins. They've kind of been doing some stuff with him again, trying to make him prove himself and giving him this little storyline on TV. And I don't really mind when Ali loses now. Like, if they're trying to get him involved and then they just go down and beat him. You know, before it was, you know, I always felt like WWE was being spiteful or being assholes to him. I don't have that same feeling now with Rollins, even though I think Ali did lose on Monday. I was okay with how it went down. And Rollins now, if he does wind up having a championship match with Ali and he does drop the belt to him, I think that would cap off an amazing year for Rollins that I think needs to be rewarded with championship gold, world championship gold in 2023. This guy basically spent a year putting guys over, spent 4 months putting Cody over, then a couple of months working with Riddle, another match that he put him over in with the Fight Pit. And now if he drops the U.S. title and puts Ali over in the process, that's Seth Rollins doing a hell of a lot of work there. That's Seth Rollins using his status and his star power to help move along other pieces of talent. Granted, he's being told to go out there and do all this stuff, but he's doing it and doing it well, and he's doing his job. And Rollins is as over and as entertaining as he has ever been in his career. And he's had a long drought in between world title runs. And I'd throw Rollins' name right on the list, right up there with Kevin Owens in terms of people currently in the company that I think deserve world championship gold the most. Close second to those guys would be Sami Zayn and, of course, Cody Rhodes when he comes back. But all those guys, especially Rollins and especially Owens, I think should get a taste of some gold in 2023, and especially Rollins with all these jobs he might be doing by the time we get to year's end. Also on Raw this past Monday, we saw the return of Nikki Cross. Very cool. Came out at the end. I think it was Bayley and Bianca, and started attacking people and has returned. She got a little bit of a different look. She's not quite the crazy Nikki that she was in NXT in terms of the same look, but she definitely seems like she has the same unstable personality that Nikki Cross had. Even Corey Graves said something. I think it was Kevin Patrick was like, I don't know who this, I've never seen this side of Nikki. And Corey Graves is like, I have. And Corey Graves has because of NXT. So Corey did a good job of trying to put over this new Nikki Cross and how she should be feared because she is not to be trifled with. But my only problem with this is that now WWE, I don't know why they do this. It's so annoying. But I don't know why they're going to bring back Nikki Cross when we already have Karrion Kross on SmackDown. Like, how the fuck are we supposed to keep track of this? Wait, there's 2 crosses? They look exactly, I just can't tell them apart. I mean, you got a cross over here, you got a cross over there. So how am I supposed to know the difference between Nikki Cross and Karrion Kross? What do they expect out of us? We're not miracle workers. You know, you got 2 people with the same last name on 2 different shows. You're confusing us, WWE. Stop with this. You know, maybe a good thing to do was just like drop everybody's last name. That way it would be much easier to differentiate, you know, Nikki, Karrion. You know, if you just did that, that would be so much better than trying to confuse fans like me with people with the same last name. I just can't keep track of it. I can't keep track of it. Don't have the mental faculty to do so. WWE, stop being stupid and just drop everybody's last name. I just want to go out there and root for Roman and Sami and Kevin and Drew. We don't need last names. Last names are dumb. You guys should drop all your last names too. We don't need them. Also, Monday, will be the go-home show to Crown Jewel, which is interesting because I believe that show is live, but they did a double taping of SmackDown last night. So they taped next week's SmackDown after the show last night, and both of those will probably be on, or last night was on FS1. The World Series is over by next week. I guess SmackDown will be back to Fox. If not, next week will be on FS1 as well. And like I said, Monday is just the go-home final little wrapping up storyline-wise and the builds to all of these matches at Crown Jewel. I'm not expecting any sort of a special show on Monday at all or any sort of major surprise or return. If there is, we'll come up and do an impromptu video or a mic drop or something like that on it, but I'm not expecting anything special coming out of Raw on Monday. Last night, SmackDown. Man, oh man. Like I said, double taping last night on SmackDown. We had, I guess it was on FS1. And then after that, they would tape what we are going to see next week as well, which I will not give you guys spoilers, but I will in a minute let you guys know what we're going to see next week. But last night's SmackDown, again, much like Rampage, I didn't watch a ton of it other than what I needed to watch. And the biggest thing I needed to watch was the absolutely magical segment between Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. I think it's candidate for segment of the year. It was so fucking fun. It had me laughing. I was in my house by myself basically last night making notes for this. I was the only one home. And I'm laughing openly out loud watching this. And it was the best thing I had ever seen. Absolutely magical. So the Bloodline is out there. I think Sami and the Usos are out there first or something. Then Roman shows up. And Jay is getting really heated. Jay, of course, we know Jay hates Sami. He's getting frustrated. He doesn't get along with Sami. On top of that, you got Roman Reigns on Jay's case. The tribal chief seems to prefer Sami over him. It's fucking with his personality. It's messing with his confidence. It's getting him all rattled. He's losing his temper. He's losing his mind. And he's unstable. So he's getting mad in the ring. And Sami is, I guess basically Sami's like, why are you getting mad at me? Because Jay's yelling at Sami. That's right. Jay's calling Sami fake. You're a fake ass Uso. You suck and all this. And Sami's like, dude, why are you yelling at me? I'm simply doing what the tribal chief says. He wants us to make peace. And then Jay goes, I don't give a damn what the tribal chief says. And it was the most perfect camera zoom in of Roman Reigns' face. Roman has got his back turned to both of them. His head's down. He's facing the hard cam. And when Jay says, I don't give a damn what the tribal chief says, Roman just lifts his head up and the camera just zooms right into his face. Perfect television execution. So good. And to see his face, it was literally collectively around the world, people were saying, oh shit, in their living rooms. You realize that? How many of you said, oh shit, out loud when that happened? I did. I was like, oh shit, I can imagine what this was like live. Now, I was at work when this was airing, and I'm on Twitter, and I literally see, I have no idea what they're talking about, and I don't even remember who tweeted it now, but I had about 4 tweets in a row that just said, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And I was like, I don't know what they're oh shitting, but I think they were oh shitting when Jey Uso said, I don't give a damn what the tribal chief says. So that gives Roman the best reaction. Crowd was even like, oh no. And that's when Sami steps in. Roman is now getting in the face of Jay. I believe even, I can't remember if he said he was going to give Sami the Uso name before or after, but he gets in Jay's face a little bit, and Sami steps in. He's like, Roman, it's okay. It's okay. It's just that Jay he's not feeling very Usy. And when he delivered that line, the crowd immediately started cracking up, chanting Usy. Roman just laughs, and you can see Jay. And that's when the whole thing just starts breaking down. It just starts breaking down. Jey Uso, who is supposed to be fuming, angry, enraged, mad, hating Sami Zayn with every fiber of his being, cannot control his laughter. And he's putting, like, Roman kind of turns away from the camera and laughs. At least Roman has he's got an excuse to laugh. He's the tribal chief. Sami Zayn said something funny. He can laugh. But Jay is supposed to be mad. And Jay just gives up. He turns away at first to laugh, but then finally he's just going like this. And you can see him bouncing up and down. And to me, that was so awesome. And that's what's so great. And that's why I think some of these segments just need to be allowed to just organically go in the direction that they're going in, because I think it's going to go down as one of the funniest and most entertaining segments that we've ever seen. Granted, people weren't staying in character, but that's the best part. Some of the best SNL sketches in history is when everybody is losing their shit. When Will Ferrell and Rachel Dratch are in the hot tub eating lamb chops, and Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon can't even fucking keep a straight face because their bellies are filled with goat meat. Like, they couldn't stop laughing. And when I see the breakdown This is not something you want to happen all the time. You want wrestlers to remain in character. I think there are some instances where this might not actually be a good thing. This might actually be viewed as unprofessional. And if you go backstage, they're going to be like, look, you need to keep it more straight. You kind of broke character there. Not cool. We're trying to tell a story and you fucked it up. I'm sure situations like that come up, but not in this case. This is one where it's okay. Even though you know they're trying to tell the story of Jay being pissed, it was much more fun with him laughing. And can you blame him? It's Sami Zayn, who's fucking hilarious. And I really hope that nobody got in any sort of trouble for this, because this was even better than what they would have done anyway. The Bloodline and Sami segments are always great, but this just added just an extra bit of entertainment and laughter, and it's just what we need. You know, wrestling fans are always just so at each other's throats and crazy and fucking nuts, and the world is insane right now, and Elon Musk is shooting rockets off and buying Twitter in the same day. It's crazy. We need something to actually smile about, and last night's segment with Sami and the Bloodline did just that. And watching, I mean, the only one that really kept it straight was Solo Sikoa. Even Paul Heyman was over there snickering. Jimmy is in the background. He's like biting his hoodie. He's just doing everything he can to not piss his pants in laughter. So after they're just laughing, Roman's trying to control his shit. He tells Jey Uso that if he doesn't get his shit straight, he's going to rename Sami Zayn Sami Uso. And he's going to give Sami the Uso name, which I hope that happens. I mean, I understand as a fan. I'm not stupid. I know that this can't last forever, but it's going to hurt when it ends because it's so good. And I hope WWE, if they had some internal plan like, oh, we're going to end this next week, maybe they can hold off on it. I don't think this thing should overstay its welcome. I don't want it to get old. I don't want it to get stale, nothing like that. But I do want it to run its course until the absolute last moment before it gets too old, because it's just too fun. It's too much fun. And I want to see Sami Zayn get that Uso name. I want to see him be accepted even more into the Bloodline, because that means when it ends, it's going to be that much more painful. And I've pitched several ideas of how to get Sami Zayn out of the Bloodline, but we know as fans, as we watch this is all going to lead to the Bloodline annihilating Sami. But, you know, how do they get there and when do they do it? I know War Games is coming up, so I think it's way too late now to actually have the split and have Sami Zayn on the other side of War Games. Don't see that happening, but being on the Bloodline team in War Games, potentially costing them the victory to where it's all his fault, and then he's sitting there in the ring, in the cage by himself with all the baby faces out of the ring, and the Bloodline is surrounding him, and then they just fucking beat his ass. Or maybe it's more effective to do something on TV instead of just kicking his ass after War Games. Maybe out on TV, you do a segment where, you know, Roman Reigns verbally kicks him out of the Bloodline, and then they kick his ass, and, you know, really damaging Sami's heart and you know, breaking his heart, I suppose. And like I said, you know, you could have some segments in the subsequent weeks where Sami Zayn is backstage in a corner, down on his luck, you know, all by himself, and that's when an old friend comes by, and Kevin Owens, and picks him up and says, you know, you not let them do that to you. How about me and you go challenge the Usos for the tag team titles, and they end what is going to turn out to be the longest WWE tag team title reign in history. I think they're just a couple of days from breaking the New Day's record. So now it's Demolition, New Day, and the Usos are about to break that. So Sami Zayn taking that away from them would be really great. But given Sami's work and how entertaining he has been all through this year, I'm not ruling out this guy taking the world title from Roman Reigns. I would love to see that. Imagine that, especially if he gets kicked out of the Bloodline. I brought up The Rock in 1998 earlier on. What happened shortly after that? Babyface turn and then heel turn at Deadly Game. He went into a program with a now babyface, Mankind, and on that January 4th Raw, that very famous Monday Night Raw where WCW told everybody to go change a channel and watch Cactus Jack put some butts in seats, they did exactly that. And I could see a scenario play out a lot like that, to where the Bloodline kicks out Sami Zayn. He's down on his luck. He's heartbroken. But then he decides to get some courage and challenge Roman Reigns for the world title. And then Roman's like, you want to fight me? You know, that's fine. You know, we've already kicked your ass, and we've already, you know, completely ruined your life. If you just want to put the final nail in the coffin and you want the tribal chief to, you know, push you out of the WWE permanently, I'll be happy to do that. And then you have somebody like Kevin Owens come down playing the role of Austin with the chair that night, hit The Rock in the head, and then Mankind covered him, and crowd went nuts and all of that. You can have that same scenario play out where Roman is beating the shit out of Sami. You've got the Bloodline out there. Maybe you've got some other guys out there, and shit is starting to break down. Kevin Owens hits the ring. Chair shot to Roman's face. He goes down. Sami Zayn covers Roman. 1, 2, 3. Crowd goes crazy. Remember the Vince McMahon reaction after The Rock lost, and he's in the next to the ring, and he's yelling at Austin, and Austin's flipping him off. And he takes his hat off and throws it to him. You could do that with Heyman and Kevin Owens. You could have Heyman freaking out Vince style, and then Owens flipping him off, and yeah, I did this. I caused it. That man's champion because of me. Fuck you, Paul Heyman. Like, that would be great. And then I don't know who could be in the ring. Some baby faces with Sami Zayn who lift him up on their shoulders just like DX did with Mankind that night. You could recreate that whole scenario here with Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn if you wanted to. So whenever it ends, however it ends, it's going to be very sad for me when that time comes. And I'm in no rush to see it happen because it's entertaining the shit out of me right now. So hopefully Roman just simply walks in to his crown jewel match with the YouTuber and beats him, and Sami Zayn does nothing to damage his spot in the bloodline, because I would love for them to see this through, and I would love for Sami Zayn to actually adopt that last name of Uso. That would be Usi as hell. Oh, man, loving it. Love Sami Zayn in the bloodline. My favorite thing going in all of pro wrestling right now. Of course, we did see the return of Emma last night, as I mentioned earlier on. She came out to answer Ronda Rousey's open challenge. Fightful Select kind of broke the story earlier on in the day that it was going to be her, so we kind of knew that ahead of time. The crowd did not seem to give much of a shit about it, though. It's almost as if they didn't remember who Emma was. Michael Cole pointed out that it's the 5-year anniversary, I think like today or tomorrow, of when she was released from WWE. So she's actually been gone for 5 years. Man. And she's back now. Hopefully the fans will start remembering who she is as she gets underway in her program here. But Ronda beat her. I think it beat her with the armbar or whatever. Backstage, Ronda is shown walking backstage, and she's confronted by Natalya. I think Ronda and Shayna, I think it's Shayna Baszler are backstage. Sonya had an interview before that. She was attacked by Liv Morgan. That's what it was. Yeah, Sonya was attacked by Liv. They have a match next week as well. Then you have Ronda and Sonya backstage. And then Natty shows up and tells Ronda, I would have answered your open challenge. And I'm like, well, Natty, you're in your gear. You're in your wrestling gear. And you're telling Ronda, if it was me, I would have beat you. Where the fuck were you when the open challenge was happening? You're in your gear. You're ready to wrestle. Where were you? Taking a shit? How come you didn't run right out there and answer the challenge? How did Emma beat you to it? Open challenges are dumb. I don't understand why they even do them, because it seems like certain talents would be the first one, even if they're like in the middle of a shower and they have no shoes on and they only have a Speedo, and they hear somebody in the ring saying, I challenge you, I'd be grabbing my towel and just running out there naked to get in that ring to get a chance for a championship. They should have a camera. It should be like the 24/7 title. They should have a camera backstage, so whenever somebody announces an open challenge, you see the locker room trying to trample each other, because that's what it should be in real life, right? You should have a locker room full of people that want to be champion. And if they're sitting there eating a bowl of soup and catering, and they're looking at the monitor and they see somebody issuing an open challenge and they're like, I'm just going to finish my chicken noodle. No, you throw your shit down, you get out there. So I think that open challenges are kind of dumb. And I think it was even dumber when Natty was like, I would have beat you if I went out there. I'm like, well, why didn't you? So she got her ass choked out by Shayna Baszler. She deserved it. And Shayna and Ronda walk away together. Nice. We need a Ronda and Shayna Baszler alliance. They should have been putting those two together a long time ago. Hate to see it happen now so late in Ronda's run. If she doesn't resign with the company or she bounces out of here next year, who knows? But I think maybe it could be a good setup for her to leave. You know, if she's going to leave the company, maybe eventually an alliance between Ronda and Shayna breaks down into a match and Shayna Baszler beats her. We'll see what happens in the future with them. But as for now, I'm really happy they are together because they are an ass-kicking duo. And finally, last night on SmackDown, we had yet another Bray Wyatt promo and more speculation as to what is going on here with him. He's coming out every week by himself, basically as himself, talking about his history, what he wants to do, what he intends to do, but that there are parts of him that likes doing horrible things, and that one day he will be faced with more adversity where he will be asked to do more horrible things, and he knows that day is coming. And then he's interrupted on the screen by another spooky Uncle Howdy vignette. We get a much better view of him this time. And basically, Uncle Howdy says a few words saying that you can't get away from me. I can control you. You'll do what I say, that type of thing. You're a liar when you say you want to be good because you're capable of terrible things, whatever. But the biggest story here is we got a little bit more of a wide shot and a better look at Uncle Howdy's face, or should I say Uncle Howdy's mask. Now, with the mustache and stuff, it looks like it's kind of tailored after maybe Barry Windham a little bit, but I mean, other than the mustache, I don't really see much of Barry Windham, maybe the blonde hair too, in the Uncle Howdy mask. And remember, we have not even seen Uncle Harper yet. Apparently WWE did trademark both. So at least now it seems like Uncle Howdy is the one maybe calling the shots on Bray Wyatt, but then you have to wonder if maybe down the road, the next big reveal is that Uncle Harper is calling the shots on Uncle Howdy, who's calling the shots on Bray Wyatt, and all of these men in the end could turn out to be Bray Wyatt himself. In terms of who played Uncle Howdy, it could be anybody. The person under the mask speaking might not actually be the Uncle Howdy we see if we ever do see an Uncle Howdy in the ring. We may never see Uncle Howdy in the ring. We might only see Bray in the ring, and then everything else is on camera or whatever. Bray Wyatt is also listed as the top babyface on SmackDown. A lot of people have heard about rumors of Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania and shit like that. I don't think that any of that should be discussed yet. And like I said, WWE, according to the reports, do have plans for Bray Wyatt and this storyline and gimmick in place for the next couple of months. We have not even seen Bray Wyatt get in the ring yet, so I don't know how we're booking him in title matches already. One of the biggest problems WWE had with The Fiend is that they did shit too early. They had a great gimmick, a great new character that was unlike anything we've ever seen. A lot of fans were intrigued by it, but they went too fast. They didn't have any creative plans in place. Yeah, they created the persona and the gimmick, but they didn't really know where they were going to go ever. And it seemed like they always just had changes in the plans, or they were flying by the seat of their pants, so to speak. I feel like WWE's got a much better handle and grasp on it now, and whatever they have planned for him is probably a little bit more written out. I don't think putting him in the ring with Roman at WrestleMania is something they need to be doing. I think it's way too early for that. They should let him do his thing for a while and let Roman face somebody else. I just don't think Wyatt in there against Roman is that great of an idea, but I think there is a long way to go before we even get to that point. We still have to see Wyatt get back in the ring and start wrestling people, what he's going to look like, what his gear is going to look like, if he's going to wrestle as Bray Wyatt or if he's going to wrestle as multiple people. We don't know, but I'm enjoying what they're doing so far, and I'm in no, as long as I know as a fan that they know what they're doing, I can sit back and enjoy the ride. It's only when I get the sense that they don't know what the end game here is, they don't know what the payoff is here, they're just making it up as they go. Whenever I get that sense, I start getting frustrated with it because I'm like, you guys are just jerking us around at this point. But if I know ahead of time that WWE, Triple H, and Bray Wyatt and everybody has a plan in place for how this saga is going to go, then I have a much better time and easier time being able to sit back and just let them do it. I don't give a shit, and I'm not going to question the rightness or the wrongness of anything, considering how wacky and crazy this gimmick is, and that we still don't really have a whole lot of answers. The Wyatt 6 hasn't been answered yet either. I mean, is Uncle Howdy only the second person out of the 6 that we're going to eventually see? If that's the case, it's going to be a long time before all of these pieces are revealed. Is the Wyatt 6 going to be a faction? Is the Wyatt 6 going to be 6 different versions of Bray Wyatt? Is this feud going to be him feuding with himself? Is Bo Dallas going to be coming in? Maybe Bo Dallas was the one under the mask. I couldn't tell with the voice. It might be a Wyatt family member. There's a few of them, or a Wyndham family member, or Rotundo family member, I should say. So maybe it was Bo Dallas. If they are going to be bringing in, other actual humans to be a part of this, that's very possible. But I think it's really hard to come to any determinations yet as to what WWE has planned for Bray Wyatt, because he's barely gotten off the ground with anything. We don't know the direction or what they're doing, what his motivations are, and how Uncle Howdy is going to start making Bray Wyatt do some bad and evil things. We'll have to see. So that was very fun last night. getting the Sami Zayn Bloodline segment along with the Bray Wyatt Uncle Howdy stuff, I thought made for an interesting enough show, and that's all I really cared to look at in terms of SmackDown last night because I had a busy night. Next week has been taped. I will not give you guys spoilers, but I will tell you what you're going to see. You're going to see Liv Morgan taking on Sonya Deville in a no DQ match. We've got LA Knight taking on Ricochet. Shayna Baszler taking on Natalya. I wonder who's going to win that one. Strowman taking on 5 dudes. I have written down 5 dudes. Strowman on taking on 5 guys. I should say that, maybe the restaurant. Strowman in a massive handicap match, probably one more final little build-up there for him and Omos. And, of course, we have the Intercontinental title match scheduled. Rey Mysterio won that IC #1 contender match a couple of weeks ago. He challenges Gunther next week on the taped FS1 version of SmackDown. And that leaves us with the Crown Jewel card. Here's what we got for Crown Jewel. 7 matches announced. The Usos taking on the Brawling Brutes for the tag team titles. I think the Brawling Brutes earned that spot last night. Am I right about that? Also, Karrion Kross versus Drew McIntyre inside of a steel cage. Braun Strowman taking on Omos. Bianca versus Bayley. Last woman standing match. They also announced that last night on SmackDown instead of Raw, which is weird. So Bianca and Bayley, last woman standing at the pay-per-view. Also Judgment Day taking on the OC. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. And of course in the main event, Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. That's what we have set for Crown Jewel coming up 1 week from today. And 1 week from right now, I'll probably be here flapping my gums reviewing the show. So that is it for my notes. I have got to wrap things up here in the next couple of minutes, but let me go and answer a couple super chats and knock these out, and then I've got to get out of here. Please do me a favor before you guys leave. If you could smash that thumbs up button for me as well, it would be very much appreciated. Let me see. Thank you very much for that, Clyde. Good to see you. Just got settled and saw you were live. Already smashed that like button. Please do that, Clyde. Hope you are well as always. Antoine Fair, I'm not sure if I got you earlier. Good to see you. Joe James, and that deal is in the house. Spectra, appreciate that $5 from you. Hey, Greg, happy Halloween weekend. That's right, it's Halloween weekend. With Punk seemingly out, do you think anyone could return? I can see Bobby Fish coming back. He seems to hate Punk. You mean come back to AEW or back to WWE? I think Bobby Fish is not going to be back in AEW. I feel like he could be back in WWE. Fish and Punk could both be going back to WWE. I put on Twitter earlier, if I'm Triple H, what I would do, if I'm forced with the decision of to bring Triple H in or to bring CM Punk in, I would go find a trusted, longtime wrestling veteran who hates CM Punk. And then I would find a trusted, long-term wrestling veteran who loves CM Punk. And I would tell both of them to go sit in separate rooms and come up with their best creative pitches. What would they do with CM Punk in the event that I brought him in? And then I would take what Paul Heyman told me and what Bobby Fish told me, and I would combine them, and I would print money. That's what I would do if I'm Triple H trying to figure out what to do with CM Punk. But in terms of, I don't think either company should be hiring anybody based on their love or hatred for CM Punk. I think that would be a non-issue for me if I'm a promoter. I really don't care what anybody's feelings on CM Punk is. I need to have talent, and I'm going to sign who I need regardless of that shit. We've got 5 more from Spectre. Thanks. Just a question, since I'm enjoying the podcast. In my Will Ospreay shirt, do you have any wrestling shirts? Who do you have? Whose would you want? I have some wrestling shirts. I don't have a ton. I've got my good buddy Amato sent me a couple of Heart Foundation shirts a couple of months ago. My girlfriend's bought me a bunch. I've got an American Dragon. I've got a Sami Zayn. I've got an Isaac Yankem. I've got a Ringmaster shirt. I have an Ico Pro shirt. I have an AEW shirt, but I don't have a lot of wrestling t-shirts. I don't really buy them very much, so I don't have many. And as you can see, I never wear them on the podcast because a lot of times they're covered up, or the screen is right here, so a lot of times you can't even see what I'm wearing anyway. And with certain color shirts, it really affects my lighting, my pro light here. If I wear like an all black shirt, everything's real bright. Like my face is real white, bright, so I usually have to wear charcoal gray or gray. That looks the best. If I wear like blue, I look like I got too much of a tan. So I usually try to just dress appropriately for the podcast, just so it can make the lighting and the glare proper and it doesn't look too crazy. But yeah, I do have some wrestling shirts. One of these nights on the live stream, maybe tomorrow, since we have 2 watch-alongs, I'll pull out anything I have, put them right here, hold them up to the camera. A lot of times during watch-alongs, I'm showing you guys videos and we're going through stuff and having a good old time. So check us out tomorrow, Spectra, for the watch-alongs. We might have some t-shirt show-offs going on. I think that's it. I'm just cruising up to make sure I got all the super chats. And yeah, I think that is it, and that will call it a day. for this fine Usi Saturday. Yes, an Isaac Yankem shirt. Elizabeth bought me Isaac Yankem and Ringmaster last year, and I think I have another kind of obscure one that I can't think of who it is right now. I might be showing those off tomorrow, but I have a weird body type. A lot of times shirts don't fit me. Extra larges are too big, larges are too small, and I just have a hard time wearing shirts sometimes. So sometimes, even when I get a shirt, I never wear it. But maybe we'll show off some tomorrow on the watch-along streams. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much for being here, and we will catch you